Somewhere. Good morning, Giants.
Somewhere. I just had to be smart.
We ran into a couple of technical issues, which is usually an indication it's going to be an excellent show. And so, really glad to have you on board, Michelle. And so, as we go through the park bench, here's one of the things for those that are watching is that you can comment as we talk. But Michelle, it's you and I. So as we're having a conversation, that'll be going on in the background. You can go back and look at it after.
Okay.
But our whole purpose is for you and I to just talk and coach. And so this is your show. So I'm going to ignore what is said in the comments. Does that work?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. And I'm going to let you take the lead and just you share with me kind of where you want to go and what's going on in your world. And we'll create a start point.
Going on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I started to take this course, and it's called Wealth. And the course is all about digging into that shadow side of ours and owning all of those pieces that have been denied over our entire lifetimes, basically. And the moment I decided to take on this course, I have been walking in my rage again.
Yeah, okay.
And it is a very interesting thing because I thought that I had moved past a whole lot of it, but apparently it just shoved it, to where I couldn't find it. And so I'm finding that very interesting, and it is showing up everywhere in my life right now.
So the rage, when you talk about, can you describe that for me? What comes up for you around that?
Well, depending on the circumstance and I don't know what your, beliefs and things are aside from,
they don't matter right now.
That, I have studied astrology on and off ever since the, I don't know, early 90s. So that's part of this workshop is studying ourselves through astrology.
So before you go into that, just know that you can talk about whatever works for you. So there's neutrality in this conversation for you to bring up whatever works for you. Does that work?
That works.
Okay.
So I guess that's part of my discomfort talking about things that other people don't believe in.
Yeah. Wow. Interesting, right? So let's just go ahead and go down the path. And so notice that the discomfort that you have is coming up within you around.
It is.
Yeah. So you've got this belief in astrology. And let's dive into it. So what comes up around the rage and the astrology?
Well, right now we're in the time of Aries. Okay. And Aries is the warrior. And they like to take on causes.
Okay. Yeah.
And I definitely take on causes. And I was always told to choose my battles. And when I was younger, I'm like, it's all a battle. They're all my battles. They're all worthy.
Okay.
And, I've been able to narrow that down, but still I can come at things very combative instead of, hey, let's sit down and have a conversation. It's just, I'm not happy about it, and this is why I'm unhappy about it, and I want you to do something about it.
Wow. Okay. So let me have you hear that. And you already know this, so it's just me just making sure that I understand where you're coming from around it. Is that there's a cause or a situation and you feel passionate about it. And rather than have a dialogue about it, you come back as combative about the topic. But also, instead of looking at it from your space, you put it over there like you need to fix this.
I do need to fix this.
No, well, so what I mean is
I have this tendency to be like, this is my problem, but I'm also making it your problem, and you have to help me solve it, instead of just saying, this is my problem. I need to figure out why I have this problem and figure out how to deal with it instead of shitting all over everybody. So when I'm in this space, I have this tendency of, this is going wrong. We need to fix it. And you need to make it a priority, even if it's not. So I project my priorities.
Wow. Okay. And you're aware of it.
I am aware of it. And being in this space right now and doing this workshop right now has made me acutely aware of it. And it is embarrassing sometimes, I will admit.
Yeah. Well, I want to honor you first for just sharing where you're at. Um, there are people that have issues, but it's not their issue, right? And it's not. I don't want to call it an issue. They have challenges, but it's not their challenge. It's everybody else's challenge. And what I'm hearing and what you're saying is that you're very aware that you get into this rage space, this protective space, that it's my cause now. And I think that you should care about my cause as much as I care about this cause. And I also want you to fix it.
Right.
But I also know that I'm doing that I'm projecting over there, that I want you to fix it. And I really don't like that feeling. And so what is it about that comes up for you as you experience that? So you get combative, you put it over there, and then what's kind of the process, right?
Well, it can be kind of a tiring process, and this is something that I definitely need to work on, because there are a lot of these issues. I mean, all of these issues that come up are obviously mine, and they might involve other people, but I try to involve them in ways that they probably don't need to be involved.
Okay.
And I will get real frustrated if I am not making my needs clear,
Yeah.
or I feel like I am not being heard, and then that in turn makes me more combative.
Yeah.
And so I have to take a step back and really sink into that.
Yeah.
And
Okay. So yeah, if you don't feel like your voice matters or you're being heard or acknowledged, then it feels frustrating and you get even more combative.
right.
Yeah. How's that working for you?
Oh, it doesn't.
Yeah. And see, so here's
It
the
doesn't
thing.
work at all, and it pushes people away, and then I push people away, and it ends up being kind of a self-sabotaging sort of a thing.
And here's the thing, that none of this has to do with shame around that. I hope you can hear me in this. We're just exploring it. It's like we have this thing that we just found, right? And you've known about it, but you're sharing it with me and you're putting it out on the table and you're saying, look, this is what's going on in my world. And we're just looking at it like observers. Like there's this thing called combativeness in Michelle that we're putting on the table and we're just looking at it. It doesn't mean anything about Michelle. Michelle found it. She discovered it. And now it's on the table. And so I hope in this whole conversation that you hear that that's all we're doing, is we're just exploring it. Like this has nothing to do with you or your value or my perception of you. What do you hear?
Yeah, I do. And I get that. And I think all of the shame that is surrounded around this particular topic, issue, challenge, whatever you want to call it,
Sure.
started a very long time ago. And this is one of those things that I'll be really delving into, with this work that I'm doing right now. And it is very uncomfortable and it is very scary because it's been coming up in the most obnoxious ways. Like, for example, the other day, like 2 days ago, I went to go donate plasma and never done it before, but I was like, I could use the extra money, so I'm just going to go. I've had friends who've done it, and they told me it would be about 3 hours for my first time to go, just to plan for 3 hours. Well, it was going on 3 hours, and I still hadn't had my physical, and like the actual donation process is an hour, and it was already 7 o'clock, and I'm like, bedtime is coming. I am starting to feel hungry again. I had just eaten before I went there, so I'd have, all of my protein and my iron and all of that. And it just kept dragging and dragging, and people were coming in all over the place. It was mad chaos in there.
Yeah, yeah.
And I started to just feel myself getting more frustrated and angry because it was taking way, way longer, and I had to go home and take care of my animals on top of that. And I'm just like, why? Why is it taking so long? And I'm like, I asked if I could just finish the process the next day. And they told me that I would have to start all over again. And I'm like, that is completely obnoxious. And I just felt myself snap.
You go into that rage mode, right?
Yeah. And I'm just like, this is such crap. Like, I've been here so long and absolutely nothing has really happened. And I still have to stick around for another couple of hours, and it's going to be after 9 by the time I get home, and my bedtime's not long after that. I try to make it not long after that.
Yeah, yeah.
And, oh my goodness. Hold on. I'm so sorry. This is my roommate.
Yeah.
So I'm out in my RV right now, and we both have cats, and we both have tomcats, and so our cats can't be out at the same exact time, or they get into really big fights. So I just have to text her really quick and let her know that my cats
Yeah,
are
yeah,
outside.
yeah. Do what you
Okay,
need
I'm
to
so
do. So,
sorry.
yep. So we
So
can be
sorry.
present. So you're good. I'll hold space for
Okay,
that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I'm back.
All right. So pause for a minute. Let me recap here. And I want to explore this. I want to pause right in that frustration that you felt, because we'll use that as a launch pad. So you go to give plasma. Everybody tells you you have this expectation or this idea, this construct that it's going to be easy. It takes about 3 hours and shouldn't be a big deal. And this is your first time, so you're a little uncertain. And so in that uncertainty, you maybe feel some anxiety a little bit around the whole experience, and you have your routines and you have your cats and your bedtime and all these things that you really like to honor. And so you get into this space, and it turns out 3 hours in, still nothing is happening. And you start to feel this frustration of, I had this vision of how this would go, and it's not going the way that I thought. And immediately this frustration goes in a snap to rage. You start to get really angry about the whole experience. They tell you, you're going to have to come back tomorrow. We're going to have to do it all over again. And that was it. It's like, I can't do this. And so the process goes from 0 to, and correct me on this if I'm off, okay, to 0 to 60 rage. And immediately, I mean, it's this instant feeling of, I'm not being heard. My needs aren't being met. I have things to do. I'm frustrated. It's not what I expected. I'm feeling really mad about this. And so my question around that, am I accurate in my description of the experience?
Pretty much. I just call it a temper tantrum.
Okay. But hold on to
But
that
yeah,
language.
that is pretty much.
Yeah. So hold on to that languaging of it, right? This temper tantrum. We'll call it that, since that's what you called it here. And so you have this temper tantrum, and you feel this extreme frustration. And what I know about anger is generally a secondary emotion. And so when you feel disappointed, frustrated, sad, anxious, a lot of times it comes out as anger. And the reason for anger is it actually moves us out of that feeling of frustration into action. And so somewhere along the line, it served you to get angry because it got things done. And so now it's become this tool that has overpowered you, to the sense that you get angry, but now you're not in control anymore. It is in control. And so I kind of want to explore that. You know, if we were to look at it, and you be as open or as closed as you want to be around this, it's really up to you. And I need to clarify that this isn't therapy. I'm not a therapist. We're having a conversation around this. This isn't medical advice or professional advice. Do you hear me in that?
I absolutely hear you in that.
We are just having a conversation around this and just exploring it. We're setting it on the table. And I'm curious around the idea of anger and where that started serving you. And not that it necessarily matters where it came from or why it's there, but to realize that it's there and it's impactful. And it impacts your life, your relationships. And so I'm wondering if you can kind of look back at where that might have began and what the situation around that is that had that be a useful tool for you, because at one point it really did serve you to get angry.
Well,
yeah.
the first time I really noticed it, I didn't act on it. And
Okay.
the reason why is I wasn't in a safe space to do so. I had an incredibly violent stepfather, and he was very much into public displays of punishment.
Okay.
And he would kind of set the stage where he would get the entire family out to the living room, and then he would just put on a show for them, and we would be the ones providing that show. And there was one incident.
Yeah,
What's that?
To clarify, was that abuse? What was that? So
Oh, it
you would
was
be the show.
very violent abuse, and it was put on display. So, and that was part of the shaming, was to make everybody watch what he was doing to us. And so that's why I get real upset with public displays of rage, and especially when it comes out of me, because it's very embarrassing and I know how shaming it can be for people.
Yeah.
And
so you get really
when like in this particular experience, my siblings and I, we were playing in the closet and we broke the wooden bar that holds our clothes. And the entire day, my mother was talking about how much trouble we were going to be in because she was going to tell our stepdad. And then when he got home, we got our normal beating, but then he also made us bring out our favorite toys and smash them with a hammer. And at that time, I was probably maybe 9 when this happened. And I had this china cabinet for my Barbies, and it had all the doors and the drawers and the silverware and all the plates and everything. I absolutely adored it. And that's what he tried to make me destroy. Then he gave my brother Legos. I don't know if you've ever tried to destroy Legos with a hammer when you're a kid, but it's kind of impossible. But he was just going to town because he was so angry, but he was allowing it to come out. And I could not destroy my china cabinet because it was like the nicest thing I had. We were really poor, so we didn't have a lot of nice things. And so every time I refused to hit it with the hammer, he beat me with the buckle of his belt. And so at one point, I held that hammer in my hand, and I'm like, I could beat him over the head with it. But I just had this other, I don't know, I probably had angels or something. And I knew that in that moment, if I tried to hit him, he would overpower me and I would be the one lying dead in the living room, not him. And so that was the first time that I remember that rage coming up, but I could not act on it. And that is how a lot of the rage has been in my life, is it's a helpless rage.
Yeah. So it's this space of, I don't have control. I don't have a say in my life. I don't matter. And there's nothing I can do about it. I feel helpless.
Well, and everybody knows about it because they're watching, you know. And
so there's this embarrassment and shame that I'm on display. And so I don't know if you know this about children's brains, you know, that and this is something to just be aware of, not a thing to necessarily hold you in that space that there's nothing you can do about it, because it's this programming that occurs when trauma occurs. It occurs through the whole body. So if you look at Bessel van der Kolk, The Body Keeps the Score, Waking the Tiger, some of these books about trauma, they found that abuse and neglect in childhood is just as impactful on the body and the psyche as a full combat veteran who did see combat. I mean, it's as impactful. And so these memories, they're not just stored in the brain like we think. They're stored through the entire body because it's a full body experience.
Yeah, I do believe that.
And so you have this experience that is so traumatic that it's stored through your whole body, and it's so reactionary. In the gut, we have 100 million neurons. That's more than a hamster. That's more than a rat. You know, there's a full-on brain in our gut. And what it's designed to react to a situation. It controls all the chemicals. And so when the chemical flood goes through your body, you're not even aware of it yet, but your gut brain is reacting. And so you have this memory and this experience, and you get in that situation and it says, I know what to do with this. And all of a sudden you're reacting before you even know what's going on. And so during development, kids' brains don't fully develop until the age of 25. And so their parents' brains become their surrogate brains. So they teach them how to think properly, to reason, to rationalize, to make decisions all the way up until the age of about 25, when you start to have a fully developed frontal cortex of your own. So if that gets interrupted or you learn behaviors, they've been programmed in such a way that it becomes natural for you to respond to situations kind of like your parents would. And it's interesting that the thing that you really dislike about the whole situation is that in a lot of ways, you're mirroring what your father would do. This reactionary, really strong, hurtful energy that comes out. And it's one of those things that you're aware of and you really don't love about your life. Am I accurate?
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
see that energy of your dad in kind of a different form, but it still pops up. And wouldn't it make sense that if that's how you developed, and hear me in this isn't a reason for you to stay there, it's just an awareness that wouldn't it make sense that you would respond that way?
It definitely does.
Yeah. And so from that space, if you were to come in contact with someone who is like you at age 9, who is going through a similar thing, and their father's abusive, and he takes their favorite things and he smashes them, and they feel hopeless and helpless and out of control, how would you hold that person?
Very protectively.
Okay. Would you have an understanding of what that might be like for them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And would that give you some empathy for their situation?
It's an automatic thing.
Okay. What do you mean
And this
by
is where that crusader in me comes in.
Yeah, so you
I take on causes.
Yeah,
And
so I hear that. Yeah. You are very
I
protective. If you see somebody is in a situation that might feel uncomfortable for them, and it's not that they're uncomfortable, it's your perception that they might be uncomfortable, you go into crusader mode.
do.
Yeah, and you get very protective. If I'm not sure if this is going on for others, but this is what I feel inside of me, so I'm going to put it out there that this is occurring for them, and I'm going into protector mode. And what I could tell you is you're not going to like me in protector mode if you're the person that feels like the offender.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true.
Because I can have thoughts, and just hang with me on this. I can have thoughts about taking that hammer to my father. I mean, if you want to talk about how far my mind can go, I can have visions of that. So when it comes to protecting myself and others, just know that I am going to battle you because I will never again experience something like that. No one's going to take away my control to the point that I will get angry and fight for it.
Yeah.
What's coming up for you?
Well, I was just thinking about last year.
Huh.
Last year, my ex tried to kill me, and he almost succeeded. And I honestly thought I was going to be done. I looked out at my world, and I was just like, this is it. This is a real shitty way to go. And I'm going, and I'm leaving my animals here, and who knows what he will do to them. And like I was in the most impossible position to get out of. And I honestly have no idea how I did it. But something in me just snapped again. And I somehow got away. And a lot of times it is more difficult to protect myself than someone else. And in that particular moment, I fully protected myself, and I don't even know how. Like I can look back at that experience a million times, and it's like one moment I was on the belly with his, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, and the next minute I was standing. I have no idea. The man is like twice my size, and it is just a very, like, my life force for me has always been very, well, it's kind of barely been there. I've had a very passive aggressive way about living my life, about protecting my life. It's always like it's interesting to me that I can go on these huge crusades to go and help other people, but it takes nearly dying for me to actually fight for my own.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, that moment with my stepdad where I wanted to kill him. And I couldn't. And that is how I have responded in so many life situations where I would feel this rage coming up and I couldn't do anything but just have tempers or cry, because a lot of times I'll cry when I'm angry because there's just so
It's
much pain
that
behind it.
intense, right? So let's explore this a little bit more. And I just want to honor you for opening up around this. And I want you to see, and you do whatever you want, you know, when I say that, I want you to see is that it makes so much sense that you would respond to the world the way you do. And there's a part of people that might be watching that would say you're justified in that. And what I'm hearing in your languaging is that I don't want to be justified in this. Like, I want to shift it. And there's this desire, and then there's this battle between that desire to shift it and this immediate response that has you show up as a crusader. And I want to call it a crusader, right? So we have Michelle, the crusader, and Michelle, let's say the lover, right? There's a beautiful Michelle in there. Is that a flower behind you that I see? There's a sunflower or something. Maybe I'm seeing it wrong, but.
Yeah, I'm in my RV, and sunflowers are my favorite flowers. They're like the most joyful flower that I can think of. And so, yeah.
So as I think of Michelle, the sunflower, you know, if we could label you as just, and it's just for this experience, right? Just that you have this side of you that loves the beauty in things, right? Loves your cats, loves your animals, can deeply love other people.
My dog. I have a dog.
And your dog.
This
right?
is my dog here.
Hey, awesome. So there's this part of you that's very loving. And then there's this part of you that's a crusader. And you've got these two sides of you. And if people are really honest with themselves, like Philip Zimbardo in the Stanford prison experiment showed, we all have the ability for darkness. We all have it within us to get really, really protective and do things that we can't even imagine doing. Every one of us. And the difference is that we learn to manage it, and socially we come into a space where we can interact with each other and we honor each other's space, and we show up not so dark, right? But to say it's not within us isn't accurate. And research shows that even the best person with the best intentions can do really, really negative things.
Awful things.
Yeah. And so to deny that is denying that we are human. And so holding space for the idea that we can do that doesn't mean that you're justified in doing that, right? It's one of those things that we know we're capable of it. And what I hear in the awareness of where you're at is you're very aware that you have that side of you that can be really combative, protective, and in a way dark.
It can be very scary for people when they're on the receiving end.
Yeah.
Especially now that I've learned to use words, because words have become my weapon.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is where I have to really watch myself, because I know how to harm people. Yeah. And it's a very uncomfortable reality, because it's not the side of me. Here we go with, we're just delving right into the stuff that I'm going to be getting into anyway. But those are the sides of me that are not pretty. Yeah. They are threatening. And I'm very candid about what I've been through in my life. And I believe that everybody should be talking about mental illness. It should be a normal thing that we all talk about these things, because the more we try to hush it in society, the deeper those wounds go, the darker we become. And we just end up in these really bad situations, or behaving in ways that are horrible for us. Like, we don't like to look at these sides of ourselves, and
so we hide it. You hide it, right? And you feel shame around it, and therefore it enhances it. And it's not that it's anybody outside of you that has a say in how you show up. But it can have this experience when you feel isolated, that I don't matter, that I don't have a voice. Then that's when it's most impactful. When I feel like my routine is interrupted and nobody cares, then my method for showing up, and I'm speaking for you, and you can correct me in this as I put myself over there, is to show up very angry. And because anger creates movement in my life. And as a crusader, it serves me really well to show up angry because it has gotten things done. The challenge is that it leaves a world of chaos in its path.
And it does. And when I went to the plasma, and I'm just like, I don't know what the hell I'm supposed to do because I can't go through this again. And I don't want to stay home. And she's just like, well, I don't know what you want to do moving forward. Like, I don't either. And like this whole time, I'm just getting more angry. And there was a woman on the computer, and she was just rolling her eyes at me. And like, part of me just wanted to slap her. And the other part of me was just like, yeah, I am seriously misbehaving right now.
Yeah. Okay.
But it got me into the office. And after like sitting in there for 20 minutes, we decided that I cannot donate plasma because I have asthma that isn't as under control that it needs to be. And I have a heart murmur. So
yeah,
I need permission. She's like, you're just going to totally hate me. I'm like, I don't, like, it's not your fault. And I had done a complete like turnaround.
Yeah.
Like
wow.
in there, just knowing that behavior that I was having, and that it wasn't anybody's fault, and everybody's doing their job and they're doing the best they can. And I learned that they're so massively busy right now because there's $1,000 payout for the month of April. And so like everybody's coming in droves and they're understaffed for it. And so like I was able to completely shift my perspective around and just become like that more light person. And she's like, you're really nice. I'm like, I know. I just
yeah. Wow, Michelle, like, can you see that there are some things that were lost in your life, some things that were missing, some things that you're sad about, as I connect with this, and this isn't my energy, this is yours, right? And so what I have to be cautious of is not to take on your things, like they are yours. And so as I speak with you, what I try and do is block that so that I can hear you, but not bring it into me. Right?
Yeah, you don't want to wear that.
Well, and what I do is after each session, regardless of who it is, I go ground and I put my feet in the dirt and I clear. But as I hear this, right, you're in this situation that is, you have this immediate response. I want to honor first your path that you took there is you had a shift in perspective. You were able to stay calm enough that you could have a shift in perspective to the point that somebody says, wow, you're a really nice person. And it's this guard that comes up, this crusader that comes up and says, you will not, and I'm going to use language here, you will not fuck with Michelle. And that's
pretty much my crusader mode when I'm in that mode.
And you will show up powerfully inside of that to crusade. And if I had a cause that I needed some backup on, I would know that I could put Michelle on the front lines of that, and she would show up powerfully as a crusader for that cause. And the challenge is that some of the things that come up as a crusade that's not necessarily needed. And so your defender comes up and she says, I am going to show up powerfully in this. And then it's like, well, you really don't belong here. It's like having Thor at an ice cream parlor trying to choose bubblegum ice cream. And he's like, you shall give me bubblegum. And they're like, we're out. And he's like, no. And he smashes the whole, or Hulk or whatever. And it's like, it's not really the space for it. But what I want you to hear is there's an opportunity for acceptance. And let me have you hear this from a different view, because it's not that you agree and you love that shows up, but this acceptance that I have this side of me that is a crusader. I have this side of me that's very loving. And there are times I get so frustrated that I show up very powerfully and angrily about this situation. The acceptance is recognizing that it is what it is. Like, this shows up, this happens. This is my life. Because the resistance to that, what happens is we resist it. We want to say, no, I deny that that's who I am. It's not okay for me to be that way. It's a temper tantrum. You're being a child, right? Even within yourself, there's no room for that to occur. And in that no room for that to occur, you start to experience even more rage, because there's no acceptance. The very thing that you seek, understanding, acceptance, love, like a view, if somebody could just, like in that office, just say, look, I can understand how frustrating this is. What do you want to do? You immediately shift your perspective to, wow, somebody just heard me and understands what this might feel like over here. The challenge is that it's not their responsibility. The challenge is we seek that, we want that, but that acceptance starts within you. And so my question around this is, can you accept that you get mad? Can you accept that you have this crusader side that shows up powerfully like Hulk in the ice cream parlor, right? And smashes everything. And there's this part of you that does that. Can you accept that? Can you accept that you were raised in a family of violence where you were put on display and that occurred? That happened for you.
You know, it's funny because when I was growing up, you know, we watched The Incredible Hulk. You know, the old one.
Yeah. Lou Ferrigno, right?
And I loved that show. And, you know, over the years, I disassociated from that. And as you're sitting here using him as the example, I'm just like, you know, when he's not the Hulk, he's actually a very kind, mellow.
Yeah.
He is intelligent and he's the kind of person that you want to hang out with. Everybody loves him. And I'm like, the Hulk is actually probably the perfect archetype for me.
Yeah. Okay.
It definitely shows both of those sides of me.
So notice in the newer movies when he blends, he's powerful.
Oh, like in the last ones.
Yeah, and he's this really funny, lovable character. So he's the best of both worlds. He's strong and he's that lovable character. And that's kind of the amalgamation of that dark side and his good sides. Like he's created a complete acceptance. And what an analogy and metaphor for you is that Hulk got into the space to where he could be a crusader. He could be a powerful human being, creature, right? Just like you. And he has this soft, intelligent, loving side that you can't help but just laugh. Like when the guy lands and he offers him a taco, Ant-Man, I think is who it was. He offers him tacos and they're like this big in his hands, right? And he's like, you want a taco? And, you know, I think of that, Michelle, that there's this side of you that where you could really blend these two worlds as a possibility, that you have this ability to be a crusader. And in that situation where you really could have raged in that plasma center and created some destruction, you're able to hold space and peace enough to really step into maybe understanding what it was like for them and have an understanding of what it's like for you and have some acceptance around that. Look, it's okay. I get it. This is hard. I could see where this is coming from. And you create this blend of your crusader side and your sunflower, right?
I think that might have a lot to do with my life purpose. Because I have always felt like this. I call myself an advocate, and I guess crusader could definitely be.
I like the crusader. I would almost say the sunflower crusader. You know, like this blending.
Like I mean business.
Yeah.
Like for me, I want to be able to put it in a direction where I am. Hi, my kitty is messing with my phone right now. He's being really left up. But with one of the things that I do in this workshop, it's a year-long workshop that I'm doing, is we decide, like in the wealth part of it, the money part of it, because there is a money part of it, because it's healing our relationship with money.
Okay.
And so we decide in our minds, like, I want to manifest so much money. However, it has to be specific, and you have to say why exactly you want this money.
Okay.
And then the second part of that is, how are you going to give back? Because life is not about taking, it's about giving and taking.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
so I thought about that. And one of my biggest passions is animals.
Hmm.
And I am probably the most angry about how they are treated and regarded in the human world. And I want to go and donate my services to the local animal shelter here. Like
Yeah.
not the SPCA, but like the actual pound.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Beautiful.
I have always wanted to have some kind of a rescue or just go out there and fight for animal rights. And I
Huh.
believe they should have the same rights as we do, especially since they're part of our family. And
Yeah.
ever since I've decided that this is how I want to give back, I am confronted. Hi, baby. I am confronted with all of these really.
Yeah.
Okay, this is Spencer.
Hey, Spencer.
He's mama's boy. And, but ever since I have decided that this is how I'm going to give back, I am given all of these really horrific stories about the stupid, thoughtless things that people do with their animals, and I want to put an end to that. I get very angry, and
Yeah. Wow.
so
Okay.
like I want to push my energies in that direction because I can be very loud and in your face, and I can learn how to do it in a way that you are heard. So that is my challenge, is to bring in that Libra side, that opposing balance where you can be more diplomatic about things, where people
Yeah.
actually
Wow.
listen to you. And that is always been a challenge in my life because this is what I want and I want it now and I need you to supply it.
Yeah.
Nobody
Yeah.
wants to listen to that kind of nonsense. And so I
Wow.
have
So,
to
so
figure out
can,
how to get my point across and get them on my side
wow. So look at
to
the
turn them into
control.
crusaders.
Look at the control in that, right? There's,
There's a lot of control in that.
yeah. So the control in that is that I need to get them to my side. So, I need to get them to see my point of view. And there's no flex in that. There's rigidity. And when things are rigid, they break. And no wonder you are having meltdowns because you push yourself and get so rigid in your view that you break. Can you see that?
Continuously.
Yeah. And so having some flex around the idea that it's okay for another person to say no, that it's okay for another person to not have the same views as me and to hold space for that. Right? Like
Yeah.
how would you feel, Michelle, in that situation? I come to you and I force my views on you and I say, this is the way it is. You need to see it. I need to get you to see it from my side. You need to accept it. You need to change. What would you do?
I'd be like, fuck off.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
And I know that that's how people are when I get in that space too. And like, it's not helpful.
Yeah. So, but
It's not
having,
helpful at all. And it's definitely not taking ownership for whatever's going on in my life. It's just, here, let me throw this at you so that I don't actually have to look too deeply because I don't like going in there. It's very uncomfortable. So I'm just going to shove this over here right now. And I totally expect you to take that on. And
yeah.
I've done that my entire life.
So having some grace around that idea. See, I picture Joan of Arc, but with a sunflower on her lapel, like this crusader, but also has a soft understanding side of, look, I can honor.
She was burned.
Well, before she was burned, let's talk about that. But here's the thing. There are a lot of people that stand for things that are burned at the stake, so to speak.
It's
right?
true.
And so there's this honoring, Michelle, from where you're at, of like, you want people to respect and honor your views, but there's no flex when it comes to their views. And so accepting that
I'm
you do
learning.
that. Yeah. So when you understand this is what I do it. It's not that you put it over there and you say, you just need to accept me because this is what I do and I'm not going to shift it. So it's your problem, not mine, because it puts it outside of you. See, there is nobody outside of you that can impact you. There's nobody
Without my permission anyway.
Yeah, well, and you get to justify everything in your world. So you can justify being angry. You can justify being loving. It's nobody else's responsibility to do that. Yet it does serve to have some understanding around where we're at. But it doesn't mean, like, if you come into my space and you tell me, look, you need to see the world this way, and I say, actually, no, I don't. And then there's this
And
push.
I'm like, but you do.
Yeah, yeah. And I hold firm and I say, actually, no, I choose to see it this way. It's okay that you don't. But this is where we're at. And having an understanding of where you're coming from, it doesn't make what you're doing okay. In my world, I can move away from that. You can continue. You can keep doing what you do, but I'm going to move away from it, right? And
which honestly you should. When I'm in that space, you should.
Yeah. But there's this understanding of, look, I can see where you're coming from. And there's this opportunity here, Michelle, an opportunity for you to really honor the best sides of this, right? To blend the whole.
My animals are like all in my space right now.
Yeah. Well, there's obviously some love in those animals. I see my dog when he comes in, he'll just jump up on me and kiss me, and not my favorite thing to have his tongue all over my face, but it's what they do. It's an indication that they see you, right?
Yeah.
So you have this really beautiful side of you, Michelle, this loving, caring side, right? And then you have this crusader side, and being able to blend the two worlds and have some grace for, this is how I show up. I show up this way. And you may not love it, but it is what it is. And there's some things that were lost in your life, and they're gone. We have people in the group that are amputees or in wheelchairs, or, that have lost their complete brain function and had to work to rebuild that. And in a way, you've had this experience where your life, a normal life, was taken from you. It was stripped from you. And you could stay in that space and say, well, there's nothing I can do because, and you would be completely justified in that. And somebody would come along and support you in that view and say, yep, Michelle, you're right. And what I hear in you is that I don't want to be right in that thing. What I want to do is shift. Like, I recognize that that's there and I miss it. And I'm sad about this occurred in my life, and it impacted me, and it still impacts me, and it may impact me for the rest of my life. But I have this commitment to blend the two worlds, this crusader side and the sunflower, right? This Hulk and the sunflower. And to be able to,
so impossible sometimes when you look at it too.
Yeah.
And that's the bridge that I have to.
Yeah. So giving some softness to that, I am learning, right?
Yeah.
Which means when you're learning, what happens?
Oh, I blunder.
Yeah. Yeah. So a child learning to walk, we don't berate them. They're learning. I mean, they're going to fumble and fall, learning to ride a bicycle, learning to drive a car, learning to work a new job and new tasks and skills. You're in this process of learning, right? So giving grace to that language of, I'm learning to be more of this sunflower. Yeah. My favorite flower. What would the sunflower do in this situation? Is some languaging that can go with you as you go into those difficult conversations. What would the sunflower do? And there may be situations that it really calls for the Hulk, and you find out that you have this power you didn't know about, and you're wondering, you stand up from the floor from somebody that's twice your size, and you're wondering, how did I do this? Because you have this Hulk side, this powerful crusader that can fight, right? And that may very well serve you. So learning to blend the two worlds and give grace to that learning. What are you hearing?
I think grace is a really powerful word.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a word that I actually never really liked for a lot of my life, kind of like faith and prayer, like all these things that I hated for a very long time. And now that I've been shifting quite a lot spiritually, which has been helping me shift in this as well. Yeah. Because I think that they're all tied together. And
interesting, right?
Now I pray. Like, it came to a point where people would say, oh, I'll pray for you. And it felt very condescending to me. And I would just say, fuck off, keep your prayers to yourself.
Yeah.
But now it's like, I welcome all the prayers. I'll take all of your love, your, your hope.
Yeah.
I've done like a complete 360 there, and that has been like the spiritual wound has actually been even deeper than all of the physical wounds that I have had, like from, trauma and stuff. Like that was the
Yeah.
biggest wound for me. And so that's starting now to come to come back. And so like Grace, like I actually named my car Grace.
Did you really? Yeah.
Yeah. And so like it's one of those words that I want to bring into my vocabulary on a very regular
Yeah.
basis, because I think a lot of us do not have enough grace for ourselves. And
So,
don't knock that over.
so let me have you speak for you. So others will speak for themselves, right? And they'll have their views. And so going into the thought of what does Michelle need? What would the sunflower do? Does this call for my crusader? Right? And I want you to hear this as my voice goes with you from here. And I love this thought. And it's not mine, it's not an original thought, but that my voice will go with you. That you get in that situation, maybe at a plasma center, or you see a post that you feel immediately your crusader comes up. That you hear in your mind, what would the sunflower do? Do I need the crusader right now? If the answer is yes, then by all means, crusade. Do what crusaders do. But if the answer is, I could be a little softer like the sunflower. What
warmer.
Or warmer. Yeah. Wow. Like hold some space for the different view. Hold some space that it might not be the same as yours. That you step into that space of, how can I shine right now? How can I look toward the sun in this, the brightness in this situation? And you might not be perfect at it. You're learning. Remember that. So giving grace to the learning, right? That you very well might go into crusader mode and then have some things to clean up, right? When
I always have things to clean up.
Well, and you're learning to shift that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, just having you on the show this morning is a testament of your commitment to moving beyond this, right? To moving into who you are at your core, because at your core, you're this beautiful, innocent child that has a sunflower of a heart, right? That is very protected by a crusader who will not let her be hurt. And to allow more,
really quite beautiful, Nick.
Yeah, to allow that child to come out, and to put your hand on the shoulder of the crusader and just say, look, I'm good. I got this. I'm okay. It's like the girl and her dragon, these movies. There's so many analogies that I see in my mind around this of, look, I got this one. I'm okay. And you put your hand on the shoulder of your crusader and you say, I got this. Step back. And you step forward trusting, right? Can you have that vision?
I love that vision.
And
yeah, that actually feels great. And I think it's an amazing place to end, because I actually have to go to work now.
Yeah. I'll honor your time here. Yep.
And I am so glad we made it to this point here, because that has
hang on to that.
That has put a very beautiful shift just in my day. And that is, I love that. It kind of makes me just want to draw it now. Like
beautiful.
Or write a little story about it.
Yeah, do what speaks to you, and I'll honor your time. We're right at time here. And just let my voice go with you around that. Remember this conversation. Remember who you are at your core. And bring more of that to the table, and put your hand on the shoulder of that crusader and say, look, I got this, right?
It's okay.
Yep.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Nick.
You're welcome. Thank you for your vulnerability. Anything else we can cover before we jump off?
Probably not, because I got to jump.
Okay. All right. Let's end it. I'm going to let you go. So thank you, Michelle. I really appreciate this conversation.
I do as well. I appreciate you showing up for me. So thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Make it a giant day.
I'm definitely going to make it a giant day. You too. You have a good one.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.